To investigate Baker's claims, I worked with medical researchers to conduct a study of the therapeutic effects of proximal intercessory prayer on auditory and visual impairments in rural Mozambique. And we can here come to the next slide. We used a portable audiometer and vision charts and evaluated 24 consecutive Mozambican subjects who were prospectively recruited. So we tested everyone who came forward saying that they had these problems. And even with a relatively small sample size, we found large enough effects in individual subjects and consistent enough effects across the study population that we are able to determine statistical significance. For hearing, as we go to the next slide, we can find that there were highly significant improvements post-PIP, which is proximal intercessory prayer. 2 subjects had their hearing thresholds reduced by over 50 decibels. And to give you a sense of how dramatic that is, if you're standing right next to a motorcycle, that's 100 decibels. Whereas if you're in a quiet environment and you've got good hearing, then that would be 0 decibels. So this is a very large change in hearing threshold. You can see in the slide on your left the individual changes for particular subjects in hearing. And then the slide on the right shows you that it wasn't simply the case that it was quieter after we did the test than before, and that's why people had better hearing. Actually, the ambient noise stayed about the same. That's the tiny little bar on the far right, whereas the changes in hearing were quite considerable. We also found significant effects for vision. There were significant improvements post-PIP. 3 subjects went from 2400 or worse, and that's reading the top line of a vision chart, that big E that you usually see, to being able to read the 2080 line of an eye chart, which is relatively small print. 1 subject went from being unable to count fingers from 1 foot away, or even see that there was a hand, to being able to read the 2125 line of a vision chart, which is also relatively small print. And that was after about a minute of prayer from Heidi Baker in that case. We also compared the results of our study with results found in studies of hypnosis and suggestion on vision and hearing, and found that PIP resulted in greater average, which is the slide on the left, and greater maximum improvements in visual and auditory acuity. And the comparison is especially relevant because you would expect similar possible confounds to be at play with hypnosis and with PIP, and things like the well-known placebo effect. And yet we found that there were much larger improvements for PIP than there were for even hypnosis. We also did a replication study in Brazil and also found significant effects.